The millionaire hides a dark secret after finding a black beggar woman in the snow with his son. Ethan Carter's cabin sat alone, swallowed by the roaring snowstorm that turned the world outside into a blank, white prison. The wind howled like a creature from some long-forgotten nightmare. Inside, the fire barely crackled, and Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he stared out through the frost-streaked window. The silence was crushing. Every heartbeat echoed loud in the cold, empty house. A lump stuck in his throat, the ache of lost love curling like smoke in his chest. His wife and daughter gone. The wreckage of his life was all around him. Then, a sudden knock, sharp, unexpected, harsh against the howling storm. Ethan froze. Who could be out there? No one ever came near this remote place. Heart hammering, he pulled the door open. The world was chaos, blinding snow, biting wind. But there, on the threshold, was a woman. Black, ragged, her clothes soaked and frozen stiff. Eyes wide with fear and desperation. Cradled in her arms was a tiny, shivering baby. Ethan's breath hitched. She looked like a ghost dragged through hell and back. "Please," her voice trembled, barely a whisper lost in the storm. "Help me." Her name was Grace, her son Noah clasped to her like a lifeline. Ethan caught the way her fingers shook, the unbearable weight of exhaustion and terror etched deep in every line of her face. She wasn't just some wanderer. There was a story darker than the night pressed down on her. Without a thought, Ethan pulled her inside. The fire flared, chasing back the cold, the storm still banging at the windows like an enemy. The air smelled of wet wool and fear, but also a strange, fragile hope. For the first time in months, Ethan felt his walls wobble. The silence broke, replaced by the soft sighs of a baby, the shaky breaths of a woman clutching a second chance. But the cabin's shadows seemed to lean closer. Something was wrong. The storm outside wasn't just weather. It matched the chaos inside Ethan's chest. Unseen, but sensed, a threat was coming. His fingers itched with old memories, dark deals, broken trusts, secrets he buried deep beneath the snow. Then, through the dim light, came a chill far colder than the winter biting at the door. Brandon, Grace's brutal past, her estranged husband, the furious man who wouldn't stop until he tore away this flicker of peace. The door swung open again. Silence exploded into anger. Brandon's voice roared. "Give me my family back!" His eyes black with rage. Ethan's gut twisted. Protecting Grace and Noah meant stepping into a storm of his own, one filled with shadows only he knew. His reclusive fortress might crumble. The ghosts of loss, pain, and lies were waking up. The storm raged, the world outside and inside collapsing. Could Ethan hold on? Or would his dark past swallow them whole before dawn? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're at it, hit that powerful like button. It really helps with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Ethan stood frozen as Brandon's furious voice tore through the cabin like the wind outside. The air crackled with tension. Grace's eyes darted between the two men, her baby whimpering softly, wrapping each sound in a fragile cord of fear. Ethan's heart raced, pounding against the walls of his chest. "Get out!" Grace shouted, her voice hoarse, raw with desperation. "You have no right to be here." Brandon stepped inside, his presence darkening the room further. "No right?" he bellowed, fists clenched. "You think you can just disappear with my son? You think you can run from the life we had?" Ethan clenched his teeth, feeling his instincts scream at him to protect Grace and Noah. He could sense the storm of violence brewing in Brandon's words. Every instinct in him rolled like thunder, warning of a lightning strike soon to come. But then a strange unease settled in his gut. There was something deeper rooted behind this confrontation, something more significant than just rage. "Brandon," Ethan said, his voice steady but low, "this isn't the time. You're scaring her." "Scaring her?" Brandon spat, eyes blazing. He leaned closer, and for a moment Ethan caught a glimmer of vulnerability buried beneath the anger, a wild, chaotic mix of love and fear. "You think I want to hurt her? I want my family back. I love them." Before Ethan could respond, he heard a sound, soft but distinct. A low thud, then another. It came from the corner of the room, where the shadows swallowed the light. Grace visibly paled, tension gripping her face. "What?" she started, but the words choked in her throat. The thuds grew louder, an urgent rhythm escalating. Ethan glanced at the corner, dread pooling in his stomach. What was hidden? Suddenly, the door burst open wider, and a tall figure stormed in, drenched and wild-eyed. It was a man Ethan had never seen, but something about him sparked recognition. A twisted knot of memories long buried. The stranger shouted, "Grace, they're looking for you. We don't have much time." Everything slowed. Ethan took a step back, stunned. Grace's face turned ashen. "What? No, it can't be." Brandon's demeanor shifted in an instant, from furious to terrified. "Who the hell are you?" he barked. "Doesn't matter. They'll catch you if we don't leave now." The stranger's glare fixed on Grace, urgent and pleading. "No," Ethan shouted. "You can't just drag her away like this. There's a baby. She was outside. She needs—" "That's exactly what they want," the stranger interrupted, breathless with panic. "To take Noah, and you won't get him back if they find you." The revelation hung in the air, heavy and toxic. Panic washed over Ethan. Who were they? What had Grace done to require hiding? Darkness crept in. The truth lurked in shadows, eager to pull him in. Ethan felt the ground shift, past and present colliding and reconfiguring in a way that twisted his gut. "Mothers have secrets," the stranger said, as if reading Ethan's thoughts. As the walls closed in, sometimes those secrets mean life or death. "You need to decide, Ethan. Are you with her or against her?" Everything he thought he knew about Grace shattered like brittle glass. His chest tightened, and for the first time in months, the suffocating weight of his isolation slammed back on him. The cabin felt less like a refuge and more like a trap. Could he really take a leap into this chaos? Or would the darkness drag them all down before dawn? Ethan's heart raced as he hung on the stranger's words, feeling the weight of choice pressing down hard. A new fear clawed at him. What had Grace done? What were they hiding? The storm outside felt like an omen, a prelude to chaos ready to break. "Who are they?" Ethan demanded, stepping forward. "What's going on here?" "Enough!" Brandon barked, his voice shaking with desperation. "Whoever this is, they're lying. Grace, you're safe with me. You can't listen to this intruder." Grace shook her head, eyes wide and terrified. "It's not But before she could finish, the stranger lunged at her, a flash of panic in his eyes. "No, you don't understand! They'll rip you apart! We've got to go!" Ethan felt the air shift, a ripple of tension that electrified the room. The fire crackled low, shadows dancing wildly. He was caught in a storm of confused loyalties. "Stop!" Ethan shouted, panic rushing up his throat. "You can't just take her! Grace, what is happening?" And then it happened. A loud banging echoed against the door, as if the storm itself sought entrance. A voice on the other side boomed, deep and menacing. "Grace, we know you're in there. Open up!" The fear on Grace's face morphed into something darker. Ethan took a step back, stunned. "Grace, what did you do?" "I didn't," she choked, clenching her fists, eyes wild with fear. "I just wanted to escape." Brandon moved in closer. "Escape? From what? Why are you running?" The door shook violently, a splintering crack sounding sharper in the cold air. "Open the door! Last chance before we break it down." Ethan's gut twisted. "What is this? You have to tell me, now!" A sharp gasp broke the tension. Grace turned suddenly pale, the life draining from her face. The baby," she stuttered, glancing at Noah, who had started to cry softly. "Oh God, he can't be here." "Get him out, now!" the stranger screamed, urgency ripping through his voice. Ethan's mind raced, but before he could think, Grace lunged forward, snatching Noah from Ethan's arms. "What are you doing?" Ethan shrieked, confusion swirling in his head. "Take him!" she yelled. "Don't let them take him! Run!" In that moment, realization struck Ethan like a fist to the gut. "Wait! You knew all along!" He stared at her, the pieces falling together like shattered glass. "You're not just hiding from someone. You are running from something far worse, aren't you?" Tears streaked down Grace's face as she gripped her baby tightly. "I made a choice. I had no choice. If they find out, you don't understand. They're after him, Ethan, not me." Behind him, Brandon began to tremble, the anger draining from his face, replaced by dread. "After him? After Noah?" "Yes," Grace cried, desperation vibrating through her voice. He's not just a baby, Brandon. He's special." The door bucked again, sending splinters flying. Ethan felt the ground slip beneath him. Every instinct screamed to protect Grace and Noah, but the truth suddenly loomed like a shadow. "Special? What does that even mean?" he demanded, his voice rising in panic. Before she could answer, the door crashed open with a deafening roar, the wind howling inside like a banshee. A tall figure, cloaked in darkness, stepped through the threshold, eyes glinting with an unbearable intensity that sucked the warmth from the cabin. "Noah!" the figure shouted, and in that single moment, everything shifted. Ethan realized, too late. The woman's fear, the stranger's urgency, the storm, everything had sewn together a horror he was unprepared for. Secrets, buried deeper than winter itself, were surfacing. As the figure advanced, cold and menacing, Ethan felt his chest tighten. "What do you want?" he whispered, breath catching in his throat as realization dawned. Behind them, shadows twisted, each one a reminder of choices made too late to change. "Time's running out," the figure said, voice oozing with malice. "And it's time for the truth." Ethan stood paralyzed, trapped between love, sacrifice, and darkness falling over them all. What was the truth? And could he fight against the storm that now threatened to consume them all? Ethan's heart raced as the cloaked figure stepped into the cabin. The air crackled, thick with dread. "Noah!" the figure shouted again, his voice sharp, slicing through the tension. Ethan felt like the ground had slipped beneath him. The truth was lurking, impending, ready to change everything. Grace held Noah tightly, her gaze darting between Ethan and the newcomer. She looked terrified. "No, no," she whispered, panic rising. Brandon's fists tightened at his sides, confusion flickering across his face. "Who are you?" he demanded, challenging the darkness, creeping closer. "The one who can save her," the figure replied cryptically, his eyes drilling into Ethan's. Ethan felt his breath catch. Was this desperation or deception? Something deeper was brewing. "Save from what?" he blurted, urgency spilling from every word. "They know," the stranger said, his voice low but urgent. "They know about the boy. They want him for what he is, for who she is." Silence engulfed the room, thick and heavy. Grace's face drained of color. "Stop!" she cried, clutching Noah closer. "You're putting him in danger." Danger. The word echoed in Ethan's mind, a thunderous roar of realization. What had she done to warrant this? The storm outside felt like a mere whisper compared to the turmoil inside the cabin. "Grace," Ethan whispered, desperation creeping into his tone. "What's happening? You need to tell us." But before Grace could respond, the stranger moved forward, eyes wide with urgency. "You don't have time to waste. The truth isn't just about survival. It's about legacy." Ethan's head spun. Legacy? What did that even mean here? With a sudden, shaky breath, the figure exclaimed, "Because Noah is not just Grace's son. He is the last." Then came a sound that splintered through the air, a crack like thunder one wouldn't expect indoors. Ethan spun to the door just as it burst open again, swinging wildly on its hinges. But it wasn't more enemies entering. It was a rush of snow, biting and furious, swirling into the cabin like an unwanted guest, freezing the moment into stillness. In that instant, Ethan turned back to Grace, just as she opened her mouth to reveal whatever world-altering secret loomed. But before she could speak, the room plunged into chaos. Suddenly, the shadows shifted again, darkness coiling around the figures inside. From the snowstorm, white and swirling, a piercing light burst forth, illuminating the room. It wrapped around the stranger, and the next moment he was gone, just vanished. Ethan blinked, mind racing. "What just happened?" he gasped. Brandon took a step back, eyes wide with terror, mouth agape. What was that? And then, before either Ethan or Grace could process it all, Noah turned his small face toward Ethan, eyes shining with an otherworldly glow, brighter than the fire that sputtered behind them. A rush of warmth filled the cabin, pushing back the cold. The unthinkable crystallized in his mind. This baby, this child, wasn't just a child. He was something extraordinary. "What are you?" Ethan breathed, chest tightening as the rush of truth hit him, piercing through the layers of confusion. "Everything you need," the air whispered in response, echoing through the walls, heavy with unseen power. The storm outside screamed louder than before, churning with a ferocity that mirrored the chaos within. Ethan stood at the edge, teetering between protection and revelation. "This can't be. Grace, you have to explain." But the reality hung thick in the air, unspoken and raw. Was Noah truly something more? Or was this all a facade hiding a truth so dark it could consume them all? Ethan's hands trembled as he gripped the edges of the dim light. Choices loomed, shadows danced, and the storm inside and out raged on. Questions simmered, each more intense than the last, as the final echoes of the stranger's presence faded away in the cold. What to believe, and would they all survive the answers they never wanted to hear? Ethan's heart pounded, a violent drum in the silence that followed. The air felt electric, charged with unspoken truths. He couldn't tear his eyes from Noah's glowing face. What were they hiding? What was this darkness looming closer? Then it happened. A sudden crack of lightning brightened the room, shaking the very structure of the cabin. The shadows flickered wildly, and with a deafening boom, the walls rattled as if the storm had finally broken through. A deep, rumbling growl echoed from outside, and in an instant, the door slammed shut on its own, locking them inside. Ethan's breath quickened. What was that? He shot a look at Grace, but her eyes were wide, lost in something deeper, something terrifying. Grace? What's going on? It's not safe, she screamed, clutching Noah tightly. We have to go now! But before she could move, the ground beneath them seemed to quake, a violent shudder that rattled through Ethan's bones. He grabbed the edge of the table to steady himself, eyes darting. It felt as if the world was unraveling, piece by piece. Then, as if time paused, the glow emanating from Noah intensified, blinding, a burst of light that filled every corner. Ethan shielded his eyes, feeling a rush of heat, a surge of raw energy crackling in the air. There was something majestic about Noah, something that radiated an ancient power Ethan couldn't understand. Then came the voice. Not from outside, but from within the room, a deep, echoing tone that resonated through every heart. I am the beginning and the end, it boomed, shaking the walls. I am the legacy of lost souls. Ethan's pulse raced. What? Who are you? His voice trembled. Your son is not who you think, the voice continued, calm but foreboding. Noah's glow pulsed, nearly blinding, but Ethan couldn't look away. He is the key, the bridge. This world will change. This world? The implications rattled through him like thunder. Change? In what way? He croaked, inching closer. The light flickered before erupting, a dazzling firework that sent waves of shimmering light dancing about the cabin. As Ethan shielded his face, the shadows coalesced into forms, swirling in tandem with the light. They morphed into hushed whispers, vague memories, anguished faces he didn't recognize. Ethan! Grace's voice cut through the chaos, filled with urgency. He knows everything. He has to. You must trust him. And suddenly, with a deep breath, Grace stepped forward, Noah cradled in her arms. The truth is, she hesitated, eyes glistening tears, and then it broke free. I didn't just flee. I hid because I am a part of something greater. Noah, he is the last of his kind, the last of the light. Ethan's mind reeled, every sense spiraling. Light? Kind? What are you talking about? Brandon, still caught in confusion, shouted, You're lying! You're both lying! No, Grace pressed, resolve forming through her fear. Brandon, I made choices, difficult choices to protect him. Ethan, I never wanted this life for us, for Noah, but they'll stop at nothing to capture him. They want his power. Just then, another thunderous boom sounded outside. The storm grew wilder, snow swirling violently around the cabin, like a beast ready to strike. Please, she begged, voice thick with emotion. If you love me, if you care for him, help us. We can't let them take him. We can't let the darkness win. Ethan felt a lump in his throat, his heart breaking. All this fear, this chaos, it was more than he could take. But the choice loomed, heavy and dark. And then, as if the universe was watching, the air shimmered and a figure materialized, this time from the shadows. It was tall, dressed in a dark cloak, face hidden, yet Ethan felt an unmistakable connection. A crashing wave of recognition swept through him. "What is it?" he whispered, feeling small. The figure raised their head, revealing a familiar face. Ethan staggered back, shock ripping through him. "It can't be. You?" The storm raged on, and Ethan stood frozen, mind spiraling into disbelief as secrets entwined, truths intersected, and the world as he knew it shattered. This was only the beginning. What had he unleashed? What was the real legacy hidden in the heart of his family? Ethan stood frozen, still grappling with the impossible. The familiar figure before him was a ghost, come back to haunt the edges of his sanity. "You? How?" The words slipped out, incredulous and fractured. The figure stepped closer into the dim light of the cabin, face illuminated by the faint glow radiating from Noah. It was his long-lost twin brother Michael, the one he had thought dead for years. Shock coursed through Ethan like a jolt of electricity. Memories flooded back. The laughter, the bond, the betrayal, and the grief. "Michael, I thought you were gone." Michael's eyes, once warm, now blazed with something unreadable. "I am, and I'm not," he replied, voice low and haunting, a cruel echo of familiarity. "Not really." Everything inside Ethan twisted. What does that even mean? The room seemed to spin, shadows dancing with laughter around him, as if mocking the fragility of their situation. "Not now," Michael said sharply. "It's not safe. Not here." He pointed toward the door, which rattled again under the force of the storm outside. The air thickened with something dark, waiting. Brandon jumped back, heart racing as if the truth had just slapped him. "You're alive? But how? This doesn't make any sense." His face twisted in shock, eyes darting to Grace, then back to Michael. Michael's gaze bored into Grace, but she stood still, frozen in disbelief. "You knew?" she whispered, a mixture of horror and fury. "You knew he was alive?" "No," Grace gasped, voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. "I swear, I didn't." Ethan felt like the ground was disappearing beneath him. The walls closed in, the cabin no longer a sanctuary, but a nest of secrets and lies. "What are you doing here, Michael?" His voice trembled, the familiar bond between them thrumming beneath layers of pain. "I came for Noah," Michael said, urgency blocking out the past. "There's no time to explain. You have to trust me. He is in danger. They're coming for him." "Who are they?" Ethan asked, feeling the weight of fear mount. He was tired of running from shadows. He needed clarity, not more layers of confusion. "The shadows," Michael stated, glancing quickly toward the door. "The ones who think they hold the power. But it's time the truth comes to light. Time for you to know why I disappeared, and why Noah must stay hidden." Before Ethan could formulate any rational thoughts, the door splintered, giving way to the storm, and a thick figure loomed in the entrance. Chilled air rushed in, threatening to swallow them all. "We've found you," a deep voice called, sending that familiar tightening of dread rattling through the cabin. "Get down," Brandon yelled, pushing Grace and Noah to the floor, as the cloaked figure pushed through the threshold, face concealed. But the air crackled with a sense of authority that draped over them like a black cloud. "No." Michael stepped forward, hands raised. "You can't take him." In that frantic moment, something inside Noah stirred. The soft glow pulsed brighter, almost responding to the tension in the air. The world tilted. Ethan could feel the reality shift, as if the entire universe had tilted on its axis. Then, an explosion of light erupted from Noah. Michael staggered back as energy lit up the room, blinding and overwhelming. The cloaked figure faltered, eyes widening in shock as the cabin transformed, walls melting away like fog under the sun. "Enough!" the figure shouted, voice laced with fury. The light danced with shadows, coiling around them, and Ethan finally understood. The truth was a double-edged sword, cutting through everything he thought was real. As everything swirled into chaos, he realized with gut-wrenching clarity that Michael had returned not only as a savior, but perhaps as a harbinger of the very darkness they had been running from. "You're not just any brother, are you?" Ethan's voice cracked as he stared into Michael's eyes, searching for answers. "What have you done?" The response was a silence, too heavy, too profound, and the storm outside, howling and relentless, only echoed the turmoil brewing in their hearts. Ethan stood at the precipice of revelation, and all he could do was brace himself. For the weight of the moment pressed in, thick with uncertainty, and then the cloaked figure advanced, shadows dancing around it, like a predator closing in on its prey. "You don't know what you're messing with," it growled, voice low and dangerous. Ethan felt the adrenaline surge, a rush of instinct clawing to protect his family. "Get away from us," Ethan shouted, stepping between Noah and the figure. He could feel Grace trembling behind him, her fear wrapping around him like icy fingers. Suddenly, something shifted. Michael stepped forward, his demeanor changing, urgency flickering in his eyes. "No, wait! You need to listen to me," he said, voice strained. "They're not here for you, Ethan. They're here for me and Noah." "What?" Ethan's chest tightened. Confusion washed over him, swirling like the snowstorm outside. "What do you mean?" Before Michael could respond, the figure lunged, and with a swift motion, reached for Noah. The air crackled, electric with tension. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He dove to the side, arms outstretched, desperation fueling his movements. "No!" he screamed as a flash of light erupted, sending him crashing against the wall. Seconds stretched into an eternity. As he regained his footing, he looked up to see Michael. The glowing light around Noah had flared, but rather than blasting outward, it coalesced into Michael's chest. A surge of power erupted from him, blinding. Shadows recoiled, pulled back as if stung, the cabin vibrating with energy. "What are you doing?" Ethan shouted. But then he saw it. Michael's eyes shifting, transforming. They flickered with a deep primal light, a truth unraveling. "Michael, stop." "No, I have to." Michael strained, voice thick and deepening. "I thought I could keep it contained, but he is the key. I am not just me anymore." In a flash, the room dimmed again, swallowed by swirling shadows. Ethan felt it, an ancient connection binding them all. Was Michael speaking the truth? Had he been holding back something? Or had someone twisted his very being? The air grew heavy, thick as the snowstorm outside. "Noah is the light," Michael's voice echoed, feeling less like a brother's and more like a distant force. "You think I'm here to save him? I'm here to protect him from myself." A gut-wrenching realization crashed over Ethan. All the years of searching, the tears shed, the loneliness felt, was it all for this? Confusion clouded his heart. "What does that even mean?" he rasped. Then, without warning, the figure lunged again, impossibly fast, reaching out toward Noah. "Stop!" Ethan shouted again, hands shaking, fear clawing at him. But as the shadows surged forward, Michael let out a roar, a fierce sound that shook the very foundation of the cabin. In that moment of tumult, a wrenching snap echoed through the space, a crack that resonated deep in Ethan's bones. The very fabric of reality seemed to warp. Behind the figure, something broke. A shimmering portal, light seeping through like the sun breaking dawn, tore open in the air. "What is happening?" Ethan ground out, stepping back as the wind howled inside, cascading around them like a cyclone. Then it hit him. A blinding flash followed by a shadow, a dark truth that fell like heavy snow. "You're not just my brother. You're—" But before he could finish, Michael vanished into the light, pulled through the portal with a scream, the haunting echo devouring the last of his presence. "Michael!" Ethan lunged forward, but the portal closed just as quickly, leaving only empty air and swirling shadows. In silence, the cabin seemed to hold its breath. Ethan stood paralyzed, body trembling, heart racing. Grace clutched Noah tightly, fear etched across her face. "What just happened?" she whispered, sounding hollow. 1,000 questions raced through Ethan's mind. "I don't know." His voice felt distant, terrified. "But we need to figure out what's going on before they find out." He looked back toward the door, a suffocating weight creeping back into the room. What had he lost? What had Michael unleashed? The storm still raged, but now an even darker shadow had swept over them, one that carried a chilling promise. The hunt was not over. Ethan stood there, breathless, shock washing over him like a tidal wave. The cabin felt alive, vibrating with uncertainty. The storm outside howled, but nothing matched the sound of chaos in his heart. "What just happened?" Grace's voice trembled, filled with disbelief. Noah gurgled softly in her arms, the soft glow dying down. Ethan felt a chill creep into his bones. There was an eerie silence, thick enough to cut with a knife. Shadows lingered, alive and restless. The air felt heavy, charged with something he couldn't quite grasp. Then it hit him. The portal, Michael, the urgency. A part of him screamed that this wasn't over, that something darker loomed. "We need to get out of here," Ethan finally said, voice shaky. He looked toward the door, the weight of impending danger pressing at his chest like a boulder. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught his eye. Something flickered in the dim light. Sliding across the room like a wraith, a scrap of paper. It landed near the fireplace, almost as if it had been sent by fate itself. Ethan stepped forward, heart pounding, hesitation clawing at him. He crouched, fingers trembling as he picked it up. The paper felt old, worn, like it had been hidden away for years. Inked in messy scrawls, a single word gripped Ethan's attention. "Reunion." What did that even mean? His head spun. There was something more, something buried beneath the surface. "Ethan," Grace's voice pulled him back. "What is it?" He turned to her, brows furrowing. "I found this." He held the paper up, but before Grace could examine it, there came another deafening crash from the door, sending splinters flying. "I'm not here to play games," the figure growled, stepping closer, darkness pressing forward. The eyes within the shadow were cold, calculating. Ethan tensed. But before he could react, the stranger shouted, "The boy must come with me!" Bristling, Ethan stepped in front of Grace and Noah, anger bubbling up. "You think I'd let you take him?" he hissed, fear igniting rage. "Noah is the key!" It echoed in the air, a shrill warning. "And Michael, he's in danger!" Ethan clenched his fists, ready to fight. This wasn't just about him. This was about protecting his family. Suddenly, Grace gasped, eyes widening. "Wait, there's something you need to see." Her hands trembled as she unfolded a small note, pulling it from her pocket. I got it from Michael before he disappeared." The tension in the room crackled. Ethan felt his heart race as she handed it over. The paper was stained, frayed at the edges, and scrawled with uneven lettering. "Created to protect," it read ominously. "Trust the darkness, but beware the light." No. The way her eyes flickered, he realized something was off. "What do you mean, trust the darkness?" "Everything isn't what it seems," she whispered, voice shaking. "They've always known. They've been watching. They're not after Michael." Pain filled her eyes. "They're after you, Ethan." "What?" He staggered back, stunned. "Why me?" Before Grace could answer, the stranger lunged. Words spilled from his lips, thick with malice. "The truth is ugly, Ethan. You're part of something bigger. You know what the reunion means." Ethan felt his blood run cold. The shadows shifted, the atmosphere thick with tension. "What do you mean?" he demanded, conviction clawing at him. But a sudden blinding light erupted from Noah, echoing Michael's glow right before he disappeared. Ethan shielded his eyes, desperation clawing at him. The world twisted, the air shimmering with energy. "No!" the figure yelled, panic flashing across his face as the shadows grew wild again. "He can't. He mustn't." And then it happened. The light enveloped Ethan, his thoughts spiraling as he was thrust into a memory, one that wasn't his own. He stood in a different place, a different time. He felt a bond, an overwhelming force cascading through him. Images flooded his mind. Childhood laughter, a shadowy figure watching him grow, whispers of a prophecy, ties stronger than blood. But there, in the depths of it all, he saw Michael, older, the same look in his eyes, yet twisted by something else, something dark. Then, just like that, it vanished. Ethan stumbled back, breathless, back in the cabin, the storm raging around them. "What was that?" Grace gasped, face pale. "You looked like you saw a ghost." "It wasn't just a ghost," Ethan whispered, voice trembling. "I saw a life. My life. Or a part of it. I don't know, but we have to go." The stranger lingered in the shadows, tension mounting. "You're in deeper than you know, Ethan, and when the truth comes to claim you, it will consume everything." Ethan's heart raced. This was more than a storm. This was a reckoning. Something profound had shifted, and now they had to brace for the fallout. "What happens next?" he questioned, the weight of urgency pressing down. And just like that, the cabin door swung wide open, the storm howling, darkness spilling inside. The danger was real, and the truth, now closer than ever, hung in the air. A question yet to be answered, a fate yet to be sealed. Ethan stood paralyzed as the door swung open, the storm crashing inside like a wild beast. Snow whipped around them, blurring the edges of reality. The figure in the doorway wavered, swallowed by the fury of nature. Breath caught in his throat, a chill crawled up his spine. "No!" Grace shouted, scrambling back. Fear etched lines on her face. Noah whined softly, sensing the tension. "Get away from him!" Ethan yelled, heart hammering like a war drum. He felt the pull of duty, urgency constricting his chest. The shadows twisted around them, dark and heavy. But then, in that moment of peril, a sudden flicker danced before his eyes, a glimmer brighter than the storm outside. Noah's glow intensified again, filling the room with warmth, pushing against the intruder. "Noah!" Grace gasped, clutching him tighter. The figure stopped, mouths forming a silent scream, eyes wide. A crack of energy whipped through the air, a pulse of something deep, and then silence descended, deep and enveloping. Ethan's heart raced, every sense alert. What was happening? "Do you feel that?" he whispered to Grace. She nodded, confusion flashing in her eyes. They stood on the edge of something profound. "No!" the stranger shouted, breaking the trance. "The boy mustn't awaken!" Ethan's instincts howled. "What do you mean?" He stepped forward, every muscle taut, ready to defend. The figure regarded him, fear palpable in the air. "You don't understand what he is," they yelled, anger twisting their features. "You have to let him go." "Never," Ethan spat, pulse thrumming violently in his ears. But then the unthinkable happened. Noah began to cry, a soft whimper at first, then building into a panicked wail. The air shifted, vibrating, crackling with energy. A sound like 1,000 voices rose around them. Ethan felt the walls flex, the shadows swirling with life. "No!" The figure backed away, panic erupting in their eyes. "Noah, stop!" Ethan felt that strange connection deepen as Noah's glow flared bright, illuminating the room. Suddenly, the shadows twisted into figures, familiar and strange. Ethan squinted, breath hitching in his throat. They looked like people. Faces from his past, swirling memories he had buried. "Michael!" Ethan gasped. His brother stood among them, illuminated, eyes bright with haunting clarity. "What are you doing?" "Ethan, I'm so sorry," Michael's voice echoed with pain. Each syllable felt like a dagger to the heart. "No!" Panic surged through Ethan. "You can't be here. You must understand. What you think is real." Michael's face twisted, revealing fragments of sorrow. "It's all a lie." "What?" Ethan shouted, disbelief flooding him. The room spun, confusion overwhelming. "No, this makes no sense." Then it happened. In a blinding flash, Michael lunged at Noah. "Noah is the key," he cried. And everything shattered. The room imploded, light exploding outward. The force slammed Ethan against the wall, knocking the breath from his lungs. When the light faded, he blinked. Disoriented, the room reformed, but everything felt wrong. He looked at Grace, whose eyes were wide with horror and betrayal. She pointed, shaking. "What did you do?" Ethan turned. The figure from before was gone, and where the doorway stood now, a swirling mist rose up. "It's not over," a voice boomed. But it wasn't just any voice. It was familiar, like a cold hand gripping his heart. "Mom?" Ethan whispered, feeling the heat drain from his face. "Noah." The voice echoed again. "We are coming for him. He is our last hope." And just like that, the world tilted again. Relationships unraveled. The storm outside howled louder. And Ethan stood on the brink of a revelation, crushed by the thought that everything he believed, every choice made, hinged on a truth far darker than he imagined. His heart raced as fear gripped him. "What does that mean? Who are you?" The mist swirled tighter, shadows flickering at the edges. The weight of the world pressed down as he watched Grace's face pale. "Ethan, what is happening?" He felt untethered, the ground shifting beneath him, like the hollow echo of forgotten dreams. And just as the truth threatened to consume him, the shadows pressed closer, whispering secrets he wasn't ready to hear. Each heartbeat echoed louder. What awaited him on the other side of this reality? Would he still hold on to his family? Or was he about to lose everything in the storm of revelations crashing in like a tidal wave? The storm howled outside, wind battering the cabin like a dark beast. Ethan stood, every fiber of his being tense. "What does that mean?" he repeated, searching Grace's eyes for answers. Suddenly, Noah's light flared again. illuminating the shadows that crowded their space. The room pulsated with energy, a living thing caught between fear and hope. The whispers rose, wrapping around him, intensifying the dread. "Trust the darkness, but beware the light," Grace muttered, her face pale as she held Noah protectively. Ethan turned to face the swirling mist. He had lost so much already. He couldn't lose this too. "Noah is not going anywhere," he declared, voice firm. The figure began to step forward, shadows stretching toward them like tendrils, seeking to consume. "You're playing with something you don't understand," it screeched, anger rising. Ethan gripped the edge of the table, adrenaline surging. "And you think taking him helps?" His heart raced. Heat filled his chest. "Noah," the figure said, voice low and urgent. "He's the bridge. The legacy must continue. He belongs with us." Shadows danced, swirling around him like trapped spirits, screaming for release. Ethan felt the walls closing in, the storm outside rattling the cabin. "No!" He surged forward, defending Grace and Noah. The light radiating from Noah pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing power from the room and the storm. "You think you can just take him? You'll have to go through me first." The figure halted, expression shifting. "You don't understand. You're part of something bigger, Ethan. A reunion is inevitable." "What reunion?" The words tore from his lips, panic spiraling in his chest. Suddenly, Noah's gaze locked onto Ethan's, bright and vulnerable. In that moment, clarity washed over him, a wave of love and power that made him stronger. "Noah?" He knelt on the floor, looking deep into his son's eyes. "Trust me." The boy seemed to whisper, and the room shifted. Light surged into the space, shadows retreating, banished by the warmth surrounding them. Ethan felt a flicker of hope bloom within him. "Stay close, Grace. We can do this together." His eyes darted to the figure, determination hardening his resolve. "You want him? You'll have to fight us first." With a burst of energy, Noah reached out his tiny hand. The air crackled, swirling like a storm contained within four walls. A brilliant flash erupted, sending a pulse of light racing through the room. The figure stepped back, a scream escaping its lips. "You're a fool," it yelled, vanishing as if swallowed by the darkness. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Ethan breathed heavily, heart racing, eyes wide. Did we do it?" Grace wrapped her arms around Noah, and for a heartbeat, they felt safe. They were together. This fragile family, a flicker of warmth against the dark. "I think so," she whispered, fear still lingering in her voice. But just then, a rattle echoed from the door. Ethan's heart dropped. No, not again. He rushed to the door, arm poised to brace against the inevitable onslaught. "We can't let them in," he said, chest tightening. "We have to stick together." And then, everything began to shift again. Pieces fell into place in ways he never predicted. Just as the door gave way, and a blast of cold air threatened to sweep through, Ethan felt a chill to his very core. There was the burning question echoing in his heart. What kind of reunion awaited them on the other side? His breath quickened, and as he felt the shadows creeping back in, he knew the battle wasn't over. They had faced this storm together, but with every pulse of darkness, doubt settled deep within him. What awaited next was unknown. This is where the story ends, but only for now. If you want to follow this journey further, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't miss a beat on the upcoming exclusive stories. They're going to be wild. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how it all will unfold. I love hearing your thoughts. And don't wait another second to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this.